What's up, Pokemon fans? So it's your boy Dashing here to bring you some Pokemon content. So I thought about what to do recently, and I noticed a lot of players or a lot of YouTubers have tier list with regards to a variety of things. It could be megas, it could be like Z move users, starters, and all that. But I noticed no one really has an Uber tier list, which I do understand. The standard draft leagues in the format don't really have Ubers. It's normally OU leagues, maybe Little Cup leagues, or UU, RU. But yeah, so seeing that there's no Uber League tier list out there, I decided to try my hand in making my own tier list. So I do have some experience in Uber draft formats. As you know, I am one of the coaches in the TPL draft league. So this is a league that allows Ubers, multiple megas, as well as maxing. Now, I'm gonna say what tier, or try to give my thoughts about what tiers mons are depending on certain formats. Like, this could be better if there's no max versus if there's max, because the concept of maxing is really busted in my opinion. You can't really take a league seriously if they do allow maxing. So yeah, I am trying to get rid of max in our league in particular, but some people are really fixated on the max thing, so it is what it is. What else? So yeah, without further ado, we'll get started here. So our first one is Arceus. Now, with Arceus here, I'm not really sure how to rank this. I'd say it's definitely S tier, and this would really depend on which Arceus you get. But for the most part, majority of them are in S tier. So as you know, Arceus is allowed to use or if it does use a certain typing, it is locked to that plate typing, so it won't be able to use any other set aside from that plate, which may or may not be a good thing, but for the most part it's not a good thing. In my opinion, the best Arceus set, because I have used Arceus still in the first season of our league, and it did well enough, I guess. I think the reason I just used Steel because I wanted an Arceus that's really bulky, that can't be poisoned. So that's basically why I chose Steel. I could have chose Arceus Poison, but then again, I appreciated the amount of resistances it got. So, when Mons would try to pivot in and out with Volt Switch or U-turn, I could resist the U-turn and just be neutral to the Volt Switch. But in my opinion, Arceus is definitely S tier. I think the best Arceus type would be normal, just because it has unbelievable wall breaking capabilities. To give you an idea, I think Arceus normal at +2 return can OHKO like a max HP Kyurem. Something like that, something stupid. So, and it does get SD. I think the thing holding Arceus back is it doesn't get bulk up or nasty plot. So it does get SD and CM, which are really good moves. And it has the move pool it has is kind of ridiculous as well. It basically gets almost everything. And yeah, I would say it's S tier, especially the normal type. It could it be banned? I don't know. I wouldn't ban it, but I would say you could ban E-Speed. E-Speed Arceus does seem ban-worthy, because you could just go full HP, like full bulk attack, and then set up subs, they can't break your sub, set up SDs, and then suddenly your E-speed just OHKOs even resisted mons. And it does do well even in formats with maxes. It could probably 2-hit KO most maxes when boosted, and maybe even unboosted mons. So yeah, definitely S tier. But those who want to use or would allow the normal type, I would suggest banning the E-speed, because that really puts it a bit over the edge, in my opinion. Our next mon here, Greninja. I'm not really sure where to put this one. I noticed I didn't put Protein Greninja here, so I might just give my thoughts after that, or after I'm done with everything, see where it ranks. But Ashgren is okay. It's a decent Uber. Of course, all these picks would depend on how much it's being priced in the league. So just because, you know, a mon is tiered in the upper, in like the A or S tier, doesn't mean it's really that good if it's gonna be worth more points than the other mons. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Greninja. So the problem with Ashgren is it has to evolve first before you get the benefits of it, and that's really questionable. So I would say once you evolve, you're probably B or C tier. But since you have to evolve first, I'm looking at more C or D. I think that's fair. We'll put it at D first, and then we'll go from there. We'll definitely put the riders, both riders, in Ubers. I have no idea why people would, you know, allow these mons. It's so busted. Like, it's so easy to win with these mons. And yeah, the Shadow one does can fall to what do you call this, like a sucker punch and all. But you do have ways around that. You could like build it bulky, you could go for a Overberry, you could set up Psychic Terrain, stuff like that. So there are ways around it, and it does do well with or without max mons. The Ice Rider itself, the fact that it can set up Trick Room itself just makes it such a menace, and it's infinitely harder to knock out. You could easily set up Trick Room, and if you have like hazards like rocks or spikes, you could instantly get 4 kills, no questions asked. And that's considering you're facing some Ubers as well. So our next mon here, Cinder A. So this is going to be the Libero Cinder. I can put it at C tier just because it does do really well. With, you know, it has more attack than the typical Protein Gren, so it does a little more chip. The downside of it is the fire typing, which can be good and bad. It can switch into U-turns, but it also is weak to rocks. So, you know, you're gonna have to want to bring boots most of the time unless you have good hazard control. It does get Pyro Ball, which is, you know, a high base power move, which can really do a shit ton of damage, especially if you are running, I don't know, a Life Orb or a Choice Band set. Scarf can work as well, but you know, if you want to take advantage of this mon, I think Boots would probably be the best set in most cases, just because, you know, you can come in on rocks multiple times and not be hindered by that. Our next one here, Darkray. I'd put Darkray above Cinder. Yeah. So Darkray is pretty decent actually. A lot of people are saying that it's OP or whatnot, but it's not really that OP, to be honest. It has really good speed. The downside is it's really vulnerable to fighting, and there are a lot of mons with Mach Punch. A solid Mach Punch, like, I don't know, if it's Guts boost that can really do damage to Darkrai. Darkrai doesn't really have any reliable recovery as well, so it can only come in a few times. And it does have good bulk, that's something to be said. With the nerf of Dark Void, it has to rely on Hypnosis to really be effective. So let's say you have a league where you allow like 1 to 2 Ubermons. Darkrai would be really bad, or not, I wouldn't say really bad, but it would be like generally bad if it's not like a point-based system, because there are just better mons all around. It does have good coverage. It has Sucker Punch for priority, Nasty Plot for boosting, gets knock off as well. So, you know, mons like Chansey or Blissey that think they can wall it, then it does have ways to go around that. So yeah, that's Darkrai basically. Next we have Deoxys. So this would be Deoxys normal and attack, I would say. Because I would put the speed one, I could put the speed one in tier 1. I don't think it's too crazy to say. There are definitely better mons than it in OU. And I'd put the defense in probably UU or RU. So yeah. So Deoxys, it does get spikes, so that's something. If you predict someone's gonna switch in on your psychic move, like bring in a dark type, you could go spikes. You could try to boost. It does have decent coverage moves. It's just so frail that, you know, any form of priority can just knock it out. A bullet punch from Scissor after rocks, something like that, can really do a number on it. And it's probably one of those mons that once it comes in, it has to take a few kills, because it doesn't really have the best ways to pressure the opponent, especially if they have, like, you know, psychic resist mons. So yeah, Deoxys would be there. Next we have Dialga. I'd probably put Dialga somewhere in B, probably, because it does get rocks. That is something to be to note. You don't really want to have your Uber be your rock setter generally, but you know, it's draft, so the more unexpected the better, right? Having that option is definitely good, especially if you are expecting something switching into your potential flash cannon or something. So let's say your opponent has Clef, you bring in the Alga, set up rocks, they're gonna expect the flash switch into something like a drill or, you know, something like that, and then you get rocks for free. You can then pressure the drill. It is bulky enough to take an EQ, so you can just revenge it with, I don't know, Earth Power or something like that. So yeah, it does get the orb as well, like the signature orb, to boost its stats, or not the stats, the stab moves. And the good thing about that is it can't be knocked off, so you can switch into knockoffs pretty cleanly and be relatively healthy. That's an option, or you can just run lefties with it, or Cobra Berry or Chuka. That could work as well. Of course, it gets Draco, especially with the signature item, can do a shit ton of damage. But yeah, I think a good way to use this mon is to just, you know, Dragon Tail mons in and out, especially mons that are trying to switch into it. So if you already have rocks and you have like fairy mons that are in front of you, they're not gonna want to stay and they're gonna switch out, and once they switch out, you can just use the Dragon Tail and, you know, chip another mon back in. Stuff like that. And the next one we have Eternatus. This is definitely gonna be banned. There's really no reason to allow this mon, because the mon is so stupidly bulky. And aside from being stupidly bulky, it does have recover as well. So you already have a mon that is stupidly bulky with reliable recovery. And especially in a meta where they allow max mons, it does have the Dynamax cannon that can just, destroy Maxmons. So even in a meta without Maxmons, this mon is still stupidly powerful and does not belong in the regular format. Genesect. Genesect is very interesting. If it was a meta where they allowed hidden power, I'd probably put it in lower C, but if they don't, it could be B. I could put it B. Because with the whole what do you call that item? The mints that change the nature, it's able to run the shift gear set without the naive nature, I believe. Or was it hasty? Something like that. So it's not nature locked to those moves anymore. Gets E-speed. Download boost is amazing. So this is just an overall amazing mono when it comes to like pressuring the opponent. A spec set could just blow things up because specs at +1 or banded depending on how your opponent or what monster you think your opponent's gonna bring could really just get out of control. But it's not the sets it uses doesn't really it doesn't have the best coverage moves. It has enough to be a viable sweeper, but it does need to keep things at range before it goes crazy. So yeah, it's also neutral to rocks and other hazards, so that's something. No reliable recovery is a thing as well. So yeah, especially in a meta where they allow pursuit, if it like U-turns and it gets bashed with a pursuit, then it could put it in range wherein the next set of hazards is gonna KO it. So there's that. Next we have Giratina. So Giratina, very interesting. It really depends. Some leagues would allow Giratina just in one form. In our league in particular, if you draft Giratina, you get access to both because, it's not really a big deal. It's basically the same one with a different ability. The move sets are completely the same. So we didn't think it made sense to have one that has Levitate and another one that has Pressure. I'd put Giratina in upper B, I would say. So the good thing about Giratina is the typing, definitely. Ghost Dragon, one of the best typings in the game. It has like stupid amount of resistances and immunities. If you go with the signature orb, then it can't be knocked off. So even the most common dark type move that you're gonna worry about is only like base 65, and with the weakness it's just 110. You definitely have enough bulk to shoulder that. You get access to moves like Willow to cripple the offensive mons. You're definitely bulky enough. The typing itself allows you to block rapid spinners. Access to typical moves like Draco, the signature Shadow Force or something like that could be a way. I think one of the similar to Dialga, you could just spread Toxics around and just throw Hex, or you could throw like a Toxic and then protect one turn and then the next turn go for Shadow Force, stall out another turn of Toxic, and then by the time you appear they're already within range. So those are some things you can do with Giratina. But yeah, we don't really have a Mon in A yet, so we're definitely gonna move Mons around depending on how this goes. So our next Mon is gonna be Groudon. I think Groudon should be in S tier, definitely, just because it's a weather setter, and you do have other mons that are low budget that can really take advantage of the weather. Chlorophyll mons, right? So there's definitely that. And aside from that, this one is so hard to OHKO in, especially in the physical side. So you're probably gonna want to take this out from the special side, and with the sun up, it's basically just weak to grass and ice. Grass isn't really a move that's really common in draft, so normally you'd bring those against mons with quadruple weaknesses, but aside from that, you're not really gonna bring those. And especially if the team doesn't allow like hidden power, then that's another thing that neuters it. Also, access to double dance SD with rock polish. P-Blades is really good. However, because of the accuracy, some players would rather run Earthquake. That's fine. Still does a shit ton of damage. Amazing attack stat. Amazing bulk. One of the bulkiest mons around. So, I don't know, you could run the Heat Rock or Lefties. Probably one of the best sets this mon can run. But yeah, you can really build a solid team around it. And it's not one of those mons that shines on its own. But the reason it's so highly tiered is because it just opens the options to other mons like, Venusaur with, Chlorophyll, and especially this gen with Weather Ball. It's so hard to stop. If you can get like a growth off, it starts sweeping. Also decent in a meta with max mons because it's so bulky. It can definitely take a hit and hit hard in return. Our next mon's gonna be Ho-Oh. It's hard to say because as good as Ho-Oh is, I guess if anything, it forces players to bring rock moves. Rock Slide, Ancient Power, stuff like that. It definitely does well against metas where they don't allow hidden power. Because unlike Genesect, Ho-Oh is a lot slower. I believe it's only base 90. So Genesect would probably outspeed most of the mons and U-turn out, while Ho-Oh has to stand there. If anything, it does get boots this gen, so it has a better way to take advantage of the Stealth Rock weakness. And mons that are trying... I think the difficult thing about dealing with Ho-Oh is the sets it brings. Some players, they try to get predictable and just spam Sacred Fires all day. But, sometimes you don't really want to rely on the burn too much. In most cases, I wouldn't say most cases, but I guess half of the time, you'd rather go for damage. So you'd go between Flare Blitz and Brave Bird. Because if they switch in a mon that's not faster than Ho-Oh, two Brave Birds or 2 attacks with base 120 coming off a base 130 stat can just OHKO that, especially if it's after hazards. So definitely Ho-Oh is better than Groudon in that case. And it can take advantage of the sun as well. I'm not sure if it gets Hurricane, maybe it can take advantage of water as well. And even if it doesn't, water moves in rain, a lot of them isn't really gonna KO Ho-Oh as well because it's just so stupidly bulky on the SpDef side. So yeah, our next one here, Kyurem Black. I'd put Kyurem Black in A tier definitely. It could be lower A or upper B, just because of the typing is just so bad. It's easily one of the worst typings in the Uber tier. Because while it does have Dragon, and Dragon is generally a good typing, it does have Ice, which is probably the worst typing of all. It opens itself to so many weaknesses, and this is a meta that allows Scale Shot as well as DD. Which, you know, at first glance it does sound broken, you know, base 170 with DD, whoa, that's gonna do so much damage. Well, yeah, if you're throwing Outrage, but if you're just throwing like Icicle Spears, that's just base 75, so you know, whatever. Cloyster could do more damage after a smash, you know, so it's not as crazy as it sounds. And so I guess it does get a buff this gen by getting what do you call that, boots. So boots allows it to, you know, come in on rocks multiple times, but I guess in the previous gens it doesn't care too much about rocks, since, you know, with leftovers it can just roost on most attacks. When Kyurem comes in, they're probably gonna switch out to a mon that checks it. You can either predict that or just go for roost and then stay healthy to switch into another attack later on. But yeah, offensively, it's I'm currently using it in a league right now, and there are certain matchups where, you know, it's really hard for it to do stuff. It fails to hit KO certain mons if they're certainly invested in a certain way. So, but I do recognize that once it does have good matchups, it can just win on its own. Definitely a mon that's better in a meta without maxing, because, you know, it gets to bully other mons with its max HP stat and the attack stat as well. Also, getting access to Freeze Dry this gen is amazing for it. Our next mon, Kyurem White. I probably put Kyurem White below K Black, because as much as K Black is good, Kyurem White does have certain things. It definitely has a stronger Draco, like, you know, base 170, and if you have specs, even resisted mons can take like, I don't know, 70% of it, be 2-hit KO'd. I don't know. I wanna see how much it does to like a mon like Genesect that just resists it. You know, Genesect isn't really that frail. You know, it has decent HP, decent defenses. So I wanna see if Kyurem White can do like 2-hit KO a Genesect with resisted hits. But even then, it does get... I don't think it gets like fire moves though. But maybe it does. Well, actually, yeah, it should, because it's with Kyurem. Or Reshi, rather. So yeah. Fire, Ice, and Dragon does sound better than Kyurem Black. So, typing-wise, it is better offensively, because it does get the fire move. But yeah, not getting it gets DD as well, which is amazing, but you know, it's not as good as Kyurem Black. And if you're just gonna DD anyways, you might as well go for regular Kyurem, which has more attack. But the 95 base speed does help it out, especially against the typical Ubers that have 90. So it does have its niches, and it does it can force certain players to run AV just so that they're not destroyed in one hit. So if you have a team that has a lot of knockoff spammers, or you know, ways to remove items, that could allow Kyurem White to just run rampant on their teams. Okay. So next one we have Kyogre. I probably put Kyogre... It's definitely S, but it's probably better than Arceus, maybe. Well, you know, it's one of those things. As a solo mon, it's not. You know, it's not. But because it brings the rain, it allows its teammates to just go crazy. Mons like, I don't know, low budget mons like Seismitoad, you know. Barraskewda. If the league is not Dex, you could have Mega Swampert, right? So those mons can go crazy just because Kyogre is there. Kyogre itself, definitely a bulky mon, gets Origin Pulse, which is a really strong water move amplified by the rain. So, not really much to say. Some leagues would choose to ban it, which I definitely agree. Not 100%, but I do see the merit in banning it just because, you know, it opens the floodgates. But I would understand if they allowed it. It's in the borderline, right? Same with Arceus normal with E-Speed. You can or cannot ban it. But these three mons definitely, if you allow these mons, the league is a joke. No ways about it. The next one we have Lando T. So this is the one with sheer force. I don't know. Would I put it in B? Like, it's better than Darkray. I'd say it's better than Darkray. Just because, you know, it has moves like Defog, it has rocks. It can be physical and special with the sheer force boosting both moves, right? Like Rock Slide, Earth Power. It can have SD, it can have CM, you know, CM with Sludge Wave destroys fairies. It can be a good Scarfer as well. So a Scarfer with that speed can really, you know, put pressure on a lot of mons. So imagine like a decent attack stat with a free life orb that's really fast. So that could really do damage. It's really hard to say. Would I put it before Genesect? Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. That could work. Before the alga, I don't know. Could be. But I think the alga should be there. Nah. We'll put it above the alga, now that I think of it. Because, you know, the alga, as good as it is, being weak to ground and fighting, two fairly common moves. Like, everyone learns fighting moves, and the ones that learn ground moves are really, can really hit hard. So and with the speed tier, like, if it was 95 speed, I would put it above Lando, but since it's not, then I don't think it's fair to put it up there. Alright, so next one we have Lugia. I definitely put it at A tier just because of the speed tier it gets. I'm not sure if it gets Encore, maybe it does. So Encore with that speed can really, you know, mess up players, spread Toxic around, and if Lugia manages to get behind a sub, dude, does the sub take advantage of multiscale as well? Is that how it works? I'm not sure, but that would be unbelievably hard to break. Like, if you don't have like a phasing move like Roar, if you just have shit like Dragon Tail, dude, that Lugia's not going anywhere. But yeah, it does tend to get passive, so I could just put it here. I think the Kyurems, the good thing about the Kyurems here is their ability to, you know, bypass moves like, or abilities like multiscale. Even K-Black, can, you know, I don't know if a Life Orb Fusion Bolt could probably OHKO Lugia if it's even if it's max bulk. I think that's possible. So there's that definitely. But yeah, what really puts Lugia up here is, aside from the bulk, is the speed tier. Flying Psychic, not really amazing, but you know, having access to defog, having boots, which, you know, allows you to retain the multi-scale is something. So you could switch in, set Toxic, and just spam Recover. They're gonna have a hard time breaking through that. So there's only a few months that can check that. We have next Lunala. Lunala is very weird for me. Because it does have good sets, but Ghost Psychic is really good offensively, but defensively, it's shit. Being quad weak to Dark, and Dark is one of the most common moves, right? Like everyone gets knockoff. A knockoff from a stab without the ability of Lunala can just OHKO it. With the ability, I guess you can take it and, you know, proc your weakness policy. And it does have an advantage with its speed tier, but in the format itself, I could probably put it above Deoxys, but I think in general I would mostly pick Cinder over Lunala. Most of the time, probably. Our next mon, Magirna. Oh, this mon. This mon is definitely up there, and I don't think this is controversial at all. This should be pretty straightforward. Because the thing with Magirna is, it was in OU in Gen 7, but with it getting Draining Kiss now, it now has a form of reliable recovery. So if you go like shift gear into someone proccing your weakness policy, you're like, yeah, I'm low HP, but you know, we can just revenge it with another mon. But it goes for a Draining Kiss, and then suddenly it's out of range of the Revenger, and you know, it starts Draining Kisses everyone. If Draining Kiss won't kill, it can go for like a Fluor Cannon or, you know, Flash Cannon, something like that. So the fact that it gets some form of recovery this gen just throws it above the tier list. I could even put it above Groudon, just because Groudon itself is team dependent. If you have a good team, it's better. If not, then no. But yeah, I think these mons here are just a lot easier to use than Magirna, because with Magirna, you still have to position it correctly to get the most out of it, and it does shine in leagues where players don't really draft well, you know. But yeah, it's definitely hampered in a league that has maxing, because you can just max and force it out, and you know, if it's already at low HP, it probably won't be able to get a free shift gear again. So there's that, a limitation to the set. Next we have Marshadow. Marshadow is very underrated, surprisingly. Would I put it in B? I could put it in A, honestly. And because it does get bulk up, which is very underrated, you know. If you go for a bulk up, start draining punching mons, you know, it's really hard to like wall this mon, because if you bring like you would think it's gonna close combat, so you bring in your psychic type, but then it has a ghost, so what are you gonna bring? A normal type, but that's weak to fighting. So you know, it is what it is. It gets it also gets the priority Shadow Sneak Technician boosted, so that's really good. It could be above Lugia, just because of the speed tier. It can fall in. It definitely doesn't do as well in leagues where maxing is allowed, because it really falls short damage-wise. But it can really do work if it's played correctly. Next up, we have Mega Blastoise. Now, generally, you would think Mega Blastoise is shit, but in this gen, it gets Rapid Spin. That, you know, it got it before, but in this gen, you get the speed boost from it, which really helps it out. You also get Shell Smash, which is probably the most OP setup move it could have gotten. Even Blissey can't wall this after a smash. It can just go Brick Break and bye bye Blissey, you know. And you might think that typical Blastoise isn't really that strong, even with a Shell Smash. It's good, but it's not like, you know, sweeping anyone. But the thing is, Mega Blastoise, aside from getting the boosts in its offensive stats, it also, because of the ability Mega Launcher, suddenly the Aura Spears and the Dark Pulses do base 120, which is, you know, a shit ton from what it used to do. So in the past you could take a shot, but now you're not. But where would I put this though? Because the thing is, you still have to smash, and when you do, if you're, you know, especially in this meta where Grassy Glide is a thing, you know, Rillaboom is there. Of course, if it's Draft League, you're not gonna face Rillaboom every week. You're gonna have weeks where, you know, you're gonna have mons that you're gonna do well against. And for the most part, you can cover a lot of the mons with your coverage moves. So, you know, you could just KO a certain mon that you don't have coverage moves, and then Blastoise can come in, sweep the rest. It's not really that simple, but I think between Blastoise and Genesect, Blastoise is a lot easier to... it's definitely a better sweeper, let's put it that. It's I'd say it's a better sweeper just because it can go physical and special. Utility-wise, Genesect is probably better. Now that I think of it, I might put the alga somewhere here. And then I think that looks good. I think I'd still put Genesect above Blastoise just because U-turn, you can easily just spam U-turn. So sweeping Blastoise is better, I would say. But in general, Genesect would be better. But you know, when it's good, when the matchup is good, Blastoise can just go, you know, up here, you know. And it's not really far-fetched to say that. Next up, we have Mega Blaziken. Mega Blaziken. It's definitely amazing this gen. It does get Aura Sphere. So you can, you know, if you don't want to miss Focus Blast, you can go that. It doesn't get Nasty Plot though, so that's unfortunate. But you know, with the work up, you can boost its special attack, throw some fire moves, and you know, priority Vacuum Wave is always good. So the problem with Genesect or with Blaziken is the stats it got from Mega Evolving is all offensive, so it's very frail, and unlike normal Blaziken, you can't really run Sash on this mon because of the item. So you're probably gonna run Protect, probably a boosting move, and then Dual Stabs. Or, you know, you can be somewhat creative there. Bring it in on a mon, it naturally outspeeds, so you don't need to Protect. And then, it does get CC this gen, so that's good. You don't need to rely on high jump kicks. You can just CC certain mons. Would I put Genesect above, or Blaziken above Lando? Yes, I would. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's better than Gira. Because these are all very close. Honestly, these are all very close. Yeah, I'd say from here to here, from Lando to K-Black, it's really close. From here to here, it's really not close. And here as well. From K-Black to Groudon, it's not close. Okay, so Megakang. So this is Megakang with... what do you call that move? With Seismic Toss? It's okay, but it's not really that amazing, especially with players punishing it with Rocky Helmet. So if you have like rock set up, it can only like come in rocks twice and then attack 2 times on a Helmet Mon. And if the Helmet Mon attacks, maybe it can only attack once. So you know, before, the way players use this is, you know, they go for Fake Out into return, which normally OHKOs anything. But the thing is, if you go Fake Out and they switch to a bulky mon with a helmet, then you're suddenly at 60%. So I probably put this over Deoxys. They put it over Lunala. Maybe. I mean, it does get Sucker Punch, so I don't think I'd put it over Cinder. Probably not. Especially if Cinder can like use a fighting move and, you know. I think the good thing about Cinder is, well, yeah, I was thinking it could go for a fighting move to block like the Sucker Punch, but the Sucker Punch would take effect before the Libero takes effect, so never mind. But yeah, I think it's Cinder is definitely easier to play. Megakang is good in formats that's, you know, tournament style, but when it's like draft where you have time to prep, it doesn't do too well. Next up we have Megamens. Ooh, Megamens. I think I'd put Mega Man somewhere here. It could be better than K-Black, but it's gonna be close because the thing going for Mega Man's is the speed tier, and you know, certain mons. Like I had a match recently versus Mega Man's, and you know, I had like a Quag there, and I was expecting Quag to like wall the Mens because I was expecting it to go DD, so I switch into Quag, and then when I calc, what if it doesn't DD? What if he like returns into a double edge? Then that KOs me, and then my best Salaman's check is already gone. So versus teams that don't have Eye Shard, this mon can really just wreck shit, especially after a DD. Yeah, even bulky mons that can take a hit, it could just run Hyper Voice and hit it, KO it from the Spit F side. So it's definitely up there. If Groudon has poor teammates, we could put it over Groudon. I wouldn't put it over Magirna, definitely. Magirna's just too good. So I think that's fair. Next we have Mega Metagross. So the good thing about Mega Metagross is it does take advantage. Actually, similar to Salamence, you could take advantage of the Intimidate and then Mega Evolve. If you're really a greedy player, you could get a KO with Moxie and then Mega Evolve, but you know, that's really whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that because it's so hard to pull off, and it's a very greedy play, and you know, if you lose, you look like an idiot. Mega Metagross. I think the tough part about Mega Metagross is it's good that it has clear body when it comes in, because you can remove or avoid the stat drops from like webs and shit. But it doesn't really have the best like the best boosting move it has is Hone Claws, and you know, its best steel move, Meteor Mash, normally misses when you need it to hit, and it's very situational. It looks amazing if you get like the attack boosts. If you don't, then it looks like whatever. So I mean, it's bulky, so I have to put it somewhere here. Yeah, because aside from the speed tier, it is generally bulky. You can have moves like agility to, you know, make sure it outspeeds everything. But yeah, generally Megakang is better to Mega Metagross, I would say. Mewtwo, where would we put Mewtwo? I think Mewtwo could be here. Because you know, Mewtwo is very underrated when it comes to like physical attack. You could just run like SD Mewtwo, but you know, players fixate, especially now that it gets Nasty Plot. They fixate on the special side, but you know, you can really catch players off guard if you have SD set, because it does have good physical moves as well. And you know, if your opponent are building mons with max SPDF, AV, shit like that, then they're gonna look really weak against the physical side. Also, the base speed 130, amazing for it. Easily outspeed majority of the Ubers. I didn't put the evolutions of Mewtwo because those would be banned clearly. No reason to have those allowed. Maybe you could say Mewtwo Y could be in, but you know, that's questionable as well. X is definitely banned. No way that Mon is stepping here. So that's that. Naganadel, I don't know. Would I put Naga over Darkray? I mean, I actually could. Yeah. Maybe not. I might put it here. Or maybe I can put it above. Yeah, I think it could be better than Darkrai. It's definitely easier than Blastoise to use, so we could put it between it and Genesect. Because, you know, even though it outspeeds Genesect, just with the download ability, just, you know, raises its damage potential to absurd amounts. Next we have, what they call this, Necrozmadon. This one is trash, man. Like, imagine Lunala with more attack but less speed. So like, what's the point? This one can fall to like 2 dark moves that's not even stab. 2 non-stab dark moves. This actually falls to like a crunch from Sharpedo, and that's not even the Mega one. I guess it can fall to like the Mega even if it's like max bulk. It would need like a Cobra Berry to like live the Mega Shark crunch. But yeah, because it's hard to be offensive when your base speed is just 77. Like, yeah, you can have Trick Room, you can have a Mon set up Trick Room. In that case, it could be, you know, better, but for the most part, this Mon is just, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'd give it some respect. I'd put it above Gren. But yeah. Next up, we have Necrozmadon Dusk. This mon is so bulky. It's unbelievably bulky. That mon should be banned. To give you an idea, this mon can live a banded Hyperspace Fury from the Hoopa himself. Okay? Hoopa, you can't OHKO this using a super effective banded attack. That's crazy. Unbelievable. Not to mention it gets reliable recovery, it gets moves like Will-O-Wisp, like Dragon Dance, and you know, unlike Necrozmadon, it doesn't have a 4 times weakness, so it can take advantage of the bulk and just, you know, it doesn't matter if it's slow, cause you know, it can just recover upon things. It can run a special set as well. It doesn't have to be physical. So it's definitely way above that. Next we have Palkia. Palkia. I could put Palkia in A. Yeah. Because, you know, it's it does have that signature move, the dragon move that has a high crit rate, and you could really spam that all day long. So imagine Dragapult with Dragon Darts, but it has a high crit range. So if it gets the crit, it can just destroy mons. Also with the water typing, if you run it in a rain team, it can just, you know, OHKO mons with Hydro Pump or shit like that. So also, it separates itself from the rest by having base 100 speed. So normally, you would think certain mons can like KO it, but it would outspeed those mons. So even a Scarf set is good as well. Like if you have like a Scarf Palkia in rain, you can just sweep certain mons. So there's that. And of course, you could still run Draco just, you know, to guarantee the base 130 damage. But I guess most players will just go for the reliable Spatial Rend, was it? Yeah. So I guess that's a thing. Next we have Formosa. It's hard for me to tier Mosa. I was asking certain players if they would put Mosa over Naga, and there wasn't really a clear consensus. Because some players said Naga, some players said Mosa. But, you know, I think it's because Naga is a little bulkier. And, you know, it can take like priority moves better. And maybe it has like reliable recovery. That's actually significant because, you know, with Mosa's defenses, even if you have recovery, it's not going to be significant. So you're most likely going to be like a sash boosting set or a choice set, maybe even Life Orb. But the speed tier is actually really amazing. I could put Moza. I could put Moza above Lando, but I wouldn't put it above Mega Blaze. I think that's fair. Next up we have Ray. So where would we put Ray? I wanna put Ray here because I feel like these ones can beat it. But the thing with Ray is, of course, it has that horrible quad weak to ice, so Ice Shard just destroys it, like a Piloswine Ice Shard. But the thing about Ray is, it doesn't just get Dragon Dance, but it gets SD as well. So you can actually SD into extreme speed and just KO mons that, you know, I don't know, maybe it can KO a Lapras after rocks, you know, once it takes rocks. Plus 2 E-Speed could KO Lapras. Because, you know, you have to remember, Rayquaza has base 150 attack. That's a fuck ton of attack. So that could work. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we put Ray over these mons, right? Because it does have priority. That's a big deal. These mons don't have priority. Most of the dragons in this list don't have priority. They're like sitting ducks. But Ray has ways around that. Also, it cancels out weather. So, you know, you have Chlorophyll mons on your opponent's side. Well, fuck that. You have Swift Swim, Slush Rush, Sand Rush. Doesn't matter. Ray will destroy you. Right? And, you know, even though it's just base 90 speed, that's still good enough to outspeed huge threats like Excadrill, you know. So that's definitely something. We're almost done with the list here, thank God. This video is so long. Next we have Reshi. Dude, I was really sleeping on Reshi, to be honest with you. We had Reshi tiered so low. But once my boy Alex was using Reshi this season, you could really see the amount of work it can put in. Because for one thing, I was thinking that, you know, it kind of sucks that it's weak to rocks and all that. But Dragon Fire is such an amazing typing. It has so many resistances. Like, you can switch it into a mon that's not a ground type and it can take the ground type moves of that mon easily, set up a DD, and if it's like weakness policy, then +3 Reshi can just sweep the game, you know. Against mons with Dynamax, it can just roost up on them if they don't have like rock or ground coverage. So that's definitely something. I could put Reshi. Would I put it above Lugia? Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure about that, but you know, some of these placings, you can argue left and right, but I put it this way because I wouldn't really be mad about it. Right? Like if someone said I see it like this, I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. But I see it like this. Yeah, whatever. But if someone says, nah, Reshi should be S tier. Whoa, hold up, Leia. We don't do that here. Okay? So, Reshi is definitely up there. Next we have Shaman Sky. Interesting, Shaman Sky. So, the problem with Shaman Sky is, of course, Ice Shard. It gets KO'd by Ice Shard. And it's really hard to fit, especially if you're in a league that allows only a few Ubers. That's if it's tier based, this mon is trash. There's just so many better mons. But if it's point based, then you could really find a way to fit it in your team. Actually, I've been having a hard time deciding if it's better than Darkrai. Darkrai is a lot bulkier. And Darkrai doesn't really automatically lose to priority, right? But Shaymin kinda does. But you know, Shaymin has that. I could put Shaymin over Darkrai. If Max is allowed, Darkrai is a lot better. No questions asked. Because you know, you're not gonna be flinching Max Mons. So a lot of the appeal is gone. But the good thing about Shaymin is it can switch into a Watermon, throw Seed Flare. If you switch into, let's say, you know, another Mon like, I don't know, let's say Ferrothorn, something like that. Because of the Serene Grace, Ferrothorn's gonna be -2 speed F, and then suddenly your Earth Power does a shit ton of damage without it being ready for that. So if it's already chipped, that could OHKO it. So it's really hard to switch into Shaymin, especially if it's throwing Seed Flares at 80% chance to fuck up your defenses. So there's that. And the amazing speed tier as well. Next up we have Solgaleo. So Solgaleo is similar to its banned version, but it doesn't get a lot of the moves the Necrozma version has. We could put it... I could put it up here because it is so bulky, and it does have respectable speed tier at 99, I believe. So it does get, you know, the good steel moves, psychic moves. It's more attack oriented than speed F or than special, but it is really bulky as well. So it does have ways around. If opponents have Will-O-Wisp, you could run like a Lumberry or like a Restock set, which is not really applicable because its competition is Mega Meta. But you know, since you are very similar, but the fact that Solgaleo has... I'm not sure if it has access to recovery. Maybe that's only the Necrozma version. But if it does, it's clearly better. If it doesn't, at least it still gets access to an item, which could really be the difference there. Next up we have the Ultra Necrozma. I think this one should be banned as well, just because, you know, its stats are too high, and with the ability that allows, you know, the special super effective moves to do a lot less, then it's a lot harder to check, especially if it has access to a move as well, or an item rather. Then it's so hard to check. Coverage moves is there. Has reliable recovery. It probably gets cosmic power as well, so it can just boost those defenses. And you know, your best way of dealing with it was, I don't know, just run a Perish Song set or some kind of Destiny Bond, you know, stuff like that. It's so hard to deal with if it's, you know, played correctly. Next up we have Urshifu single. I mean, this is another one that's really hard to position, but if it's positioned correctly, it's just an amazing wall breaker. And you know, I'm one of those hyper offense players, so I tend to prioritize offense rather than defense. Would I put it? I could put it over Deoxys and Lunala. Yeah, I'd put it over Metagross. Because you know a banded attack with crit, that just does too much. It's just too much. Maybe not Overcam, because as good as it is, it doesn't really hit that speed tier that you wanted. So it's not gonna be there to sweep. It's just a real potent wall breaker. So yeah, these three, or these four, or five rather, are kind of interchangeable. I wouldn't really be mad if you switch them around however you want. It's really close. Xerneas. Xerneas, amazing mon. If you allow Geomancy, it's banned. Without Geomancy, it can be... I would put it here, below Ray. That seems fair. Because you know, the ability it has already boosts its Moonblast. And if you run like specs, that could really OHKO any mon that doesn't resist. You could even run a Scarf set, which does a shit ton of damage even without, a boosting item. Because it essentially already has a boosting item with its ability. You could run a physical set, but that's really, matchup specific with Horn Leech and all that. Get Psychic for those poison types that wants to, check it. You could even run like non-Power Herb Geomancy to, on certain mons that switches into another mon, and then like if you're gonna threaten a mon and they're gonna switch into a mon that's gonna be attacking specially, you could just go for the Geomancy there. They switch out, you outspeed the next mon, and then you get the boost, and suddenly their attacks doesn't really threaten you as much, and then you get access to what's basically a banned mon. So there's that. Next up we have Yveltal. Normally Xerneas is better than Yveltal, but without Geomancy with Power Herb, I could put Yveltal S tier. Just because it's really bulky for one thing, and its ability to do huge damage with like knockoff. Its knockoff can 2-hit KO mons even if they don't have items. It's really that strong. Priority in Sucker Punch, that's boosted with the ability as well. Access to reliable recovery. Oblivion Wing, amazing move. Gets access to Defog. Just a tough mon to deal with in general. Like, yeah, it's weak to rock, ice, and electric. And if it runs like a choice item like Scarf, I mean, I don't like Scarf on this mon, but if it fits the team, then go for it. You're probably gonna go, I guess Black Glasses would be like the best set, but I could see someone running Specs or Banded, like Banded knockoff would do a shit ton of damage. That would mean you'll be eventually chipped down by rocks as you come in, but you're definitely getting your money's worth with the amount of damage you're gonna deal back in return. It also gets Snarl, so mons that would like to set up on it aren't really gonna be able to set up, because you can just snarl them down, run Toxic, and just keep recovering up. So it's just a hard mon to deal with in general. We did fight. I did had a game versus Wendell, one of the players that drafted Yveltal as their shared mon. Unfortunately, he did not bring it to the actual battle. I guess it's because I had K Black there, and it's gonna be another victim of K Black. But if you did get to chip out my K Black during the match, then you could revenge it with a boosted item Sucker Punch. That's definitely gonna do at least half to even a mon as bulky as K-Black. So the next mons we have Zacian. Definitely no questions asked, this mons should be banned. Funny enough, we did allow this mon last season, our first season of the league, and it's because we don't really understand a lot of the Ubers yet. We do have a fair we have a fair amount of understanding. Like, we checked their movesets, checked the calcs, what does it look like, are there ways around it, or are they just too imposing? So at first glance, I kind of pushed for Zacian to be allowed, because I thought, you know, between having it and having max mons allowed, there's enough ways to deal with it. But that was just regular Zacian, not the crown, because the crown can of course just destroy even Dynamax mons with its, you know, max killing move. But in this case, I actually did not know that or I think I forgot that Zacian was fairy type. So the fact that it's so offensive, has one of the best typings in the game, or I guess I would say fairy is the best typing in the game, and just the offensive presence with the coverage move it gets was just unbelievable. Literally, I played the guy who drafted Zacian twice. I barely won the first game. I kinda dominated the second game, but that was because I was able to paralyze the Zacian and it became useless then. But the thing about the matchup I had there was the Zacian could literally OHKO all of my mons. I did not have a single mon that that could take a hit unless it's Sash. So if he sets up rocks, then it's GG already at that point. Because my maxmon was Durant, and Zacian does get Fire Fang. So I think if it was a boosting item, if it had like Expert Belt or Life Orb, even if I went Oka Berry on my max Durant, I would still fall to a Fire Fang. Maybe not, but you know, it's gonna be really close, and you don't really want to bring Oka Berry on Durant anyway, because you know, you want to hit as hard as you can. So because of that, because fortunately for everyone, the player who was using Zacian didn't really use it properly with regards to like the sets, team building. He you know, he was throwing play roughs against fire type mons, which is, you know, whatever. So yeah, but we definitely learned from that mistake, and fearing another an actually competent player would draft the mon next season, we decided to ban it, which is definitely where it belongs. Maybe if it had, you know, less speed or a shittier move pool, we could allow it, but at this case, no. Even if you say Zacian cannot hold an item, it doesn't really need to, because it essentially has a free choice band without the choice property. So yeah. Next one is the Zamazentas. If there was an E rank, I'd put Zama no crown there. I'd probably put Zama crowned. I could put it here, between these four. They're kind of tied in that sense. The best thing Zama can do, or the best use for it, is definitely just to wall something and pivot in and out. It does have decent defenses. I could put it at B if the format allowed maxing, because you could take advantage of the max killing move. But if not, then it's definitely low C. Advantage of this as well is switching into Toxic. Because if you have like a bulky mon and you think you're just gonna go for Toxic, you can switch into this mon. It has decent coverage moves. Unfortunately, it doesn't really get like body press, which would be, I guess if it got body press, we'd be putting this at around A tier, maybe low S, but since it doesn't have that, and its best setup move is just Howl or Work Up. Yeah, it's really just outclassed by everything else here. Next one is gonna be Zekrom. Interesting mon. So this mon is one of the best mons that got Dragon Dance this gen. Definitely comparable to Rayquaza in that sense. Because unlike K-Black, Zekrom does have like a better dual stab options in Electric Dragon. So that's definitely, like, look at the mons this mon can check. This mon can actually like Oko a mon like, you know, Ho-Oh or even Lugia, because of the Terravolt ability, you can ignore those buffs. It's not walled by mons like Quag. Even the legendary Pyukumuku can't stand up to this mon. So, I wouldn't say it's S tier, but it's pretty close. This three could be interchangeable, I would say, between these three. Because aside from that, and it does also, it's one of the few Uber mons that gets pivot in Volt Switch. So that's definitely something to take note about. You could run like a Scarf set and just, you know, be both physical and special, dual Scarf. And you could go Specs and Band, but I don't think Band is like a good idea because you're mostly gonna want to DD anyway in most cases. So yeah. But yeah, I think these three mons can be interchanged. It's really up to the user what best fits your team. And our last one is going to be Zygarde Complete. Now, it really depends, you know. I can put Zygarde at around B or middle B, low A, probably. But in our league, we allow mons to like start the game, because we play in custom games, so you can do a lot of shenanigans. You can enter the mon as their mega forms, which is the normal format that we do. So mons like Sharpedo, you need to spend like an extra point to use its base form. So, you know, it's kinda nerfed in that way. But it's really a huge buff for a mon like Zygarde Complete, because you immediately get access to that 216 HP, which allows it to be, you know, just S tier, probably above Groudon, maybe even above Ho-Oh and Magirna. But without that, I could say it's a solid A. One of the sets I thought about is I forgot what that berry was. The berry that increases your Spidef if you take like a special move. So you could take like switch into a Scald or something, run a Restock set, and then like Restock DD 1000 arrows, and you're not gonna be breaking this unless you're like a setup move, because it's already at +1. So even stab ice moves are not gonna be doing too much. And you know, if you set up enough, then you can just start sweeping with the 1,000 arrows, one of the best moves in the game. But yeah, for the most part, I think everyone knows what this mon does. I forgot if it got scale shot this gen or something, but yeah, it gets Draco, Core Enforcer if you're into that stuff, you know, prevent, regenerate mons from, you know, stalling you if ever they toxic you or some stuff. So there are things to explore there. So yeah, that's basically gonna be the tier list. Somewhat happy with how this turned out. At first glance, I'm not sure if I should change anything here. It does look pretty... I think I'm satisfied with how it turned out. I could change my mind later on once I, you know, get familiar with more mons, but for now, I think that looks good. So yeah, if you guys like the content, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!